guys, so for the close reading, I'm going to have my class read two different speeches that were given at the end of World War II. One was given by Admiral Halsey. This speech we are going to go over as a class. I'm going to read it out loud. I'm then going to have the students read it silently to themselves, and then we'll kind of highlight through it big ideas, things they're confused about, and we'll go over it, and then we will read out loud a speech from the Japanese Empire Hirohito, and this is also towards the end of World War II, and I'll read it out loud first. I'll have the students read it silently. They'll be split up into groups, and then they'll be able to talk and kind of highlight together on things they don't understand, on things they do understand, and I have all the highlighted colors here. So they're going to highlight in yellow words or phrases that they find confusing. I want to make sure that they understand that when they're going through a reading, they need to be able to define every word in the reading, because certain words can have really big meanings. And if you don't know what that word is, then you can miss pretty much what a whole entire paragraph is trying to say. And then they're going to highlight in blue phrases that they believe were meant to have a larger impact or a bigger meaning. Sometimes really simple words really mean something so much more, and the students really need to understand in order to analyze a paragraph or a speech or a short excerpt from a book or something of that sort, that the likelihood is there is a bigger message there. And then they're going to highlight in pink the lines that address who these speeches are for. Anyone who's speaking is speaking to somebody. If someone's writing, they're writing to somebody. There's always an audience. So it's actually very clear in these two speeches who they're talking to, but I just want to make it adamant that just because it's easy to find in here doesn't mean it's always easy to find in every speech and every writing, and I want to make sure they're looking for that. And then they're going to highlight in green on their own completely the significant differences between the two speeches. This obviously can only be done after they've read both speeches, so they'll do this within their groups with their classmates. So I'm just going to go over and read the first speech here. Oh, and they're all going to have Chromebooks, so I'm going to share this link here with them, and I'm going to give them access to it, and they can kind of edit it and go around with it. So anyways, Halsey's announcement is, this is a speech basically to the men of the Third Fleet, and this was when like the last kamikaze's falling on the horizon, and everyone's really excited, we're winning the war, and he goes on to say, men of the Third Fleet, the war is ended. You, in conjunction with our brothers in arms of all services and all branches of all services, have contributed inestimably to this final result. You have brought an impeccable, treacherous, and barbaric foe to his knees in abject surrender. This is the first time in recorded history of the misbegotten Japanese race that they, as a nation, have been forced to submit to this humiliation. I said in 1942, the Nips were no Superman. You have helped write finis on the estimate in 1945. Your names are written golden letters on the pages of history. Your fame is and shall be immortal. Whenever you have met the foe, on the sea, on the land, in the air, or under the water, you have been supreme. Whether in early days when fighting with a very frayed shoestring, or at the finish when fighting with the mightiest combined fleet the world has ever seen, the results have been the same. Victory has crowned your efforts. The forces of righteousness and decency have triumphed. In this moment, our thoughts turn to our happy and fortunate homeland, to our loved ones. Deeply rooted in each and every heart is a desire. Now that the tumult and glory of war has ceased and victory, absolute and unconditional victory, has crowned our efforts to return to our homes. So then, after that, we're going to basically go over and we're going to have students highlight any words or phrases they might find confusing. Now, he uses a lot of big words that a lot of them probably won't know, to be totally honest. So they're going to come up here. I'm going to grab our yellow highlighter because that's what we're using. And we're going to underline or highlight words we'll say inestimably. They might not know what that is. And we're going to highlight we're going to highlight that word. And now they'll also have a sheet of paper next to them, and they're going to look up these phrases. We're going to look them up as a class because I want to make sure, like I said, that they know. Humiliation, I'm sure they'll probably know. But I just want to make sure that if any words that they don't know that they are focusing on, or phrases here, this might be a confusing one. When fighting with a very frayed shoestring, like what does he mean by that? So we'll discuss that in class and kind of go over that. Just certain things like that, and they're going to underline, or they're going to highlight and really figure out what they want to know there. And then we'll say highlight in blue phrases that you believe were meant to have a larger impact or bigger meaning. So let's look through here. Maybe we're just going to highlight right here the glory of war. Now that certainly has bigger meaning that the students are going to have to focus on. Like, what is that? What is that glory of war? Is this like a profound nationalism that everyone in our homeland is going to have? Things like that. So they'll go over kind of little phrases like that. They're going to highlight in blue, and we'll discuss what the bigger meaning is. And then the next is going to be highlight in pink the lines that address who these speeches are for. His is really easy, like I said. Men of the Third Fleet, the war is ended. So we know he's definitely talking to the men of the Third Fleet. He's obviously probably talking to and trying to appease the people at home as well, and the soldiers. Or not just the soldiers, because how he speaks of the people at home, deeply rooted in each and every heart is a desire. So maybe we could highlight that also. And then I'm going to have them go on. So they're really not going to do anything in green yet. And they'll have notes off to the side. They can make annotations and things like that. And then we're going to go on to Emperor Hirohito's speech. And this is around the exact same time as Admiral Halsey's speech. And this is the first time he's ever actually addressed his people. But he goes on to say, we, the Emperor, have ordered the imperial government to notify the 4 countries, the United States, Great Britain, China, and the Soviet Union, that we accept their joint declaration to ensure the tranquility of the subjects of the empire and share with all the countries of the world the joys of co-prosperity. Such is the rule that it was left to us by the founder of the empire of our illustrious ancestors, which we have endeavored to follow. Today, however, the military situation can no longer take a favorable turn, and the general tendencies of the world are not to our advantage either. What is worse, the enemy, who has recently made use of an inhumane bomb, is increasingly subjecting innocent people to grievous wounds and massacre. The devastation is taking on incalculable proportions. To continue the war under these conditions would not only lead to the annihilation of our nation, but to the destruction of human civilization as well. So, on their own, I will read this out loud. Students will read it silently to themselves, and then they're going to highlight it over. And then this final question they can do within the group. Based on your analysis, explain how the United States of America and its soldiers are being portrayed by Halsey and by Hirohito. How do these differ? These differ immensely. What's going to really help them is when they're going to go over and highlight in green the significant differences between the 2 speeches. So in one speech, you have this, the men of the Third Fleet, the soldiers that fought in this war were these great, amazing people. And then here, Emperor Hirohito is really saying that they were disastrous, that they were these brutal people that did these inhumane things. The United States dropped a bomb, and we did these awful things. So there's 2 totally different portrayals of the United States here. So that's basically what I'm going to have the students do. They're going to answer this question so I can just assess how well they've understood both of the texts and make sure they get that the overall idea was that this is how Japan was viewing us, whereas this was how the United States was viewing it. Not viewing us because we are us, but how they were viewing their victory. And hopefully this really helps them analyze and critically think about different texts and speeches and anything like that, because it's really important for students. But that's all I have. That's all I have them doing. And I've attached the screencast and the Google Doc to my discussion forum if anyone cares to see it. But all right, have a good night.